Alright, so now I'm done cutting my first second layer sleeves. So here I have 4 pieces of lace fabric. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4 pieces, I'm going to interface them. I'm going to line them. So if I have to do that, it means I'm cutting my lining. Okay, I'll be cutting 4 of my satin fabric. So it depends on the kind of fabric you want to make use of. Okay, that depends on but whatever fabric you want to use crepe, you want to use cotton, you want to use satin, you will need 8 pieces, 1 for interlining, 1 for lining, for 1 piece. Okay, so 1 piece will have 2. The 4 of them now will have 8 pieces. So I'm going to take off my pattern pieces now, as you can see. So this is my pattern piece. I've taken it. So I didn't add any seam allowance because we did not add in the first one. So our measurement will also be intact. Now I'm taking off my pattern. And as I take off my pattern, I'm going to pick 1 piece. Okay, I'm picking 1 piece of it, as you can see right here. So whatever I do with this 1 piece, that is what I'm going to do in all other of the pieces. So I will use this 1 piece to demonstrate to you how I'm going to place my lining on my lace fabric. So I'll quickly use my uhu gum to place this lace on my lining. I'll just do that gently, not too much gum. Okay, so I'll just place it. So once I've placed it, it has stayed for me. Then I'll turn over to this part. I'll also do the same placement like that. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to do this, repeat this for all of the rest of the 4 of them. So this is my interlining for 1 of my lace fabric now. So I'll just cut I'll now cut the fabric. Okay, so this is going to serve as the outer layer, and I'm going to bring in the lining of the same shape. So I want you to note that I also hairstayed. Okay, I hairstayed my fabric. If you see there, you can see I hairstayed the part that I have my interlining. But then for the parts I'm going to place as lining, I did not hairstay it. Okay, the lining part I did not hairstay it. So what I'm going to do is to pick up right side to right side. So this is actually how I'm going to sew it, right side to right side. This is the right side of my lining and this is the right side of the fabric. I'll just place it like this. Okay, so I'll place it like this and I'm going to secure it with my pin. So that is exactly how I'm going to sew this on my machine. As you can see, I'm securing it in a way I'm not taking off these pins. In a way I'm going to sew on my machine on top of my pins. Okay, so I'll get more pins and secure them. So once that is done, I'm going to trim. Okay, so it now makes it easy for me to sew. Once I get to the machine now, I'll just sew around the circle. And after sewing around the circle like we did in the third flay, I will cut the radius. So I'm going to sew with my hemming gum. Okay, all your flares, ensure you sew them with your hemming gum so it relaxes nice and flat for you. All right, so I'm done. So this process is what I'm going to use for the rest of the three. So you can see it, I have lining, I have fabric, which is hair stayed. So I'll just sew around it now, clean up the edges, cut off the radius like we did in the last one for all of them. Then we'll be back. I'll give them a good present. I'll show you how to sew it to the sleeves. So coming over to the sleeves, I've already cut the sleeves, as you can see here. So this is the pattern for the sleeve, which I added 0.5 seam allowance, 0.5 on the armhole, 1 inch on the hem, and 0.5 on the hem. Okay, so I'm also going to cut. All right, so now I'm done with the flares. As you can see right here, I have them finished, 2, 3, 4 of them. Okay, I have them finished very, very properly, as you can see, and I've cut the radius, and this is the lower layer has been pressed and given a good press. Okay, and the radius are cut. So it's time for us to start sewing this into the sleeve. So I have my sleeve pattern right here. So the first sleeve, the first length we want to sew in, I'm going to take the measurement from, including the seam allowance. I'm sewing in at 8 inches, or let me say 7.5 inches, and the next one will be at 11.5. Okay, so I'm going to take off my pattern now, 7.5 and 11.5. So I'm taking off my pattern. I added 1 inch on the side and 0.5 on that part. So I'll pick up one sleeve and demonstrate to you. This is the right sleeve, that is the right side, and this is the wrong side. So we are practically going to sew this. We are sewing this right on the right side. So, but before we do that, I'm going to take the measurement of 7.5, which we measured right now, where the first flare is going to be situated. So I just make a little mark on that line at 7.5, and the next will be at 11. Okay. All right, so I'm done marking out the first and the second flare. So I'm going to put this together now, and I'm going to sew the sleeve according to the measurements. Okay, so the measurement I have right here for my sleeve, I have the bicep at 8 inches. So from, including my seam allowance, I'm going to mark my biceps at 8.5. Okay, so this is my bicep at 8.5, and from there I'm going to measure my bicep circumference, okay, at 15 inches. So this is it, and my cap measurement is 8.5. I'll just measure my cap at 8.5. So this is it. So I'm going to sew this way, and coming over to what I have, my elbow is 14.5. So you can see I have including the seam allowance, I have 13. So the round elbow measurement is at 14. Okay, divide by 2 will give you 7. So now I'm going to sew my sleeve right now. I'll sew it, give it a good press, and bring it back to show you how to sew in the flares. So I'm done sewing my sleeve, and I've turned it around to the right side. So you can see my sleeve, and that is what I got. So I still have my markings to sew my flare. So the first flare I'm going to sew is the first one. And to sew the first one, I'll come in with my flay. I'm going to insert this into this, okay, up to the point I want to sew the flay. So I'll just follow the chalk markings and pin all around. So I'll just pin all around on the line at which I want to sew the flay. Okay, so you can see how I'm pinning it, and that is exactly how I'm going to sew right on my machine. So I'll go to my machine now. I'm going to sew the first flay, okay? So I'll just spread out my sleeve and take it, the sewing all around. Then I'll be back to show you how to sew the second one. All right, so now I'm done sewing the first flay. As you can see, I stitched it into the circumference right there where I marked. So now we want to start off the sewing of the second flay. So for the second flay, I'm going to sew 2 in 1, okay? So you can see I've already stitched around the circumference, as you can see for the second flay. So I'll just come in with my sleeve. I'm going to sew it around here. I'll just put it in, and I'll also secure with my pins on the chalk line. So I'll just go over now to the machine, and I'm going to sew on the chalk line, okay? So I'm sewing at 0.5 inches right away. So I'll quickly sew it down just like I did on the other one, and I'll be back to show you how to sew it into the bodies of the off-shoulder dress. Alright, so now I'm done sewing the sleeve. This is the first layer, and this is the second and third layer together. So this is what I got. So to sew this appropriately, I have to cut off what I have on this length, okay? So this is what I wanted to sew around it as I marked, okay? But for ease of sewing, please, you need to cut off so you can place your presser foot and sew accordingly. Alright, so that is that. I'm going to repeat this same process for the layered sleeve right now on the other sleeve. Then we'll proceed to sewing it into the bodies with our feather.